When a waitress called the police on a black man, she had no idea she was confronting a war hero. One false call turned her life upside down, exposing what she had tried so hard to keep hidden. What followed would surprise even the most seasoned observers. But let's start from the very beginning. In a cozy restaurant on the outskirts of the city, known for its exquisite steaks, the morning rush was in full swing. Joanna, a waitress with years of experience, bustled between tables, catering to the wealthy clientele. An elderly black man in worn-out clothes walked through the door. His warm smile and polite demeanor stood out, but Joanna frowned the moment she noticed his simple attire, which, in her mind, didn't match the standards of her establishment. The man seated himself at an empty table by the window and calmly scanned the menu. Joanna approached him slowly, crossing her arms. "Excuse me, sir, but this table is reserved," she said, though no reservation sign was present. "I just wanted to order a cup of coffee and a little something to eat," the man replied calmly. "I'm a veteran. I enjoy starting my day in a welcoming atmosphere." "This isn't a charity diner," she snapped, her tone cold and irritable. "If you can't pay, please leave." The man quietly pulled out his wallet and showed her the cash inside. Joanna pressed her lips together, feeling a flicker of discomfort, but she didn't back down. "You're disturbing other customers," she insisted. "I don't have time for this. Just leave." "Are you serious?" The man looked bewildered but remained composed. "I haven't broken any rules." "Then I'll call the police," Joanna declared, grabbing her phone. She spoke loudly into it. "There's a suspicious individual here, threatening and refusing to leave." The man closed his eyes briefly, as if battling a wave of exhaustion. He seemed to know exactly how the situation would unfold, but chose to remain silent. The restaurant fell into an uneasy hush. Customers cast curious glances toward the scene, some filled with disapproval, others tinged with anxiety. It was as if time itself had paused, waiting for the arrival of the police. The restaurant fell silent. Joanna tried to speak, but the words caught in her throat. Her eyes darted between the officers and the patrons, who now looked at her with open disapproval. "This is all just a misunderstanding," she stammered, forcing a strained smile. "I was only trying to protect the restaurant from trouble." "Trouble?" Rodriguez cut her off sharply. "You called the police claiming aggression. Where is it?" "This man has been calm from the start." Joanna felt her face flush with heat. One of the customers stood up. "I've been here the whole time," the man said loudly. "This gentleman didn't do anything wrong. But you, ma'am, are judging people based on their appearance." The crowd began murmuring, their whispers growing louder. James rose from his chair, attempting to diffuse the tension. "Please, let's not make a scene," he said, looking at Rodriguez. "I just wanted a cup of coffee. I didn't mean to cause any trouble." But the situation had already spiraled out of control. Another patron raised their phone, capturing the moment. In the frame were a visibly flustered Joanna, Rodriguez with a stern expression, and James, standing with quiet dignity. "People need to see this," the young man recording whispered. "This is how veterans are treated in our town." Rodriguez turned back to Joanna, his expression hardening further. "A false police report is a serious offense, ma'am, and if this has already been recorded, you'd better prepare for the consequences." "But I didn't know who he was," Joanna protested, her voice faltering. "I just thought—" "Thought what?" Thompson interjected. "That his skin color automatically made him a threat?" The words hung in the air, heavy and cutting like thunder on a clear day. Joanna fell silent, her mistake laid bare for everyone to see. Meanwhile, the young man with the phone had already uploaded the video to social media. Comments started pouring in almost immediately. "A veteran? And they treat him like this?" one user wrote. "This is a disgrace to our town," another added. The crowd inside the restaurant grew louder. Suddenly, the restaurant's owner, Mr. Harper, entered through the back door, drawn by the commotion. His eyes darted from James to Joanna, and then to the officers. "What's going on here?" he demanded. Rodriguez gave a brief, clear explanation. Harper's face turned pale as he looked at James. "Colonel Brennan?" he breathed, extending a hand. "I'm so sorry for this terrible misunderstanding. Your coffee is on the house, and dessert too." James gave a faint smile but said nothing. Joanna, however, stepped back, her face ashen. Her job, her reputation, everything was crumbling before her eyes. After Rodriguez's explanation, the restaurant was enveloped in tense silence. Mr. Harper, barely managing to maintain his composure, turned to Joanna. "Do you realize what you've done?" he asked coldly. "Colonel Brennan is a hero, a man who dedicated his life to serving this country, and you humiliated him in front of everyone." I didn't know," Joanna stammered, her voice trembling. Just what?" Harper's voice rose. "You've dragged our restaurant's reputation through the mud, and now this is all over the internet." Indeed, the video had already gone viral. Social media was flooded with outraged comments and demands for justice. The longer time passed, the more the situation escalated. James, unwilling to prolong the ordeal, placed a bill on the table and prepared to leave. "I only wanted a cup of coffee," he said calmly, glancing at Harper. "But thank you for reminding me how far we still have to go in this world." Harper hurried after him, but James was already out the door. The remaining patrons softly clapped, showing their support for the veteran. Some even took the money from their own tables and placed it in the tip jar, leaving handwritten notes of apology for James. Joanna stood frozen, as if rooted to the spot. Harper turned to her with a look of finality. "You're fired," he said sharply. "We can't afford to let something like this happen again." The next day, the restaurant became the focus of national attention. Interviews with James shared his story as a veteran and a man who had dedicated his life to defending his country. People gathered outside the establishment, leaving flowers and notes of gratitude. For Joanna, however, the fallout was very different. She faced a relentless wave of criticism and even threats. Attempts to defend herself on social media fell flat. Her words carried little weight against the damning evidence of the video and the public's judgment. Weeks later, Joanna recorded a video of her own, publicly apologizing to James and anyone she might have hurt with her bias. "This incident changed me," she admitted. "I've realized how deeply rooted my prejudices were and how much harm they can cause." For James, the experience became a lesson in resilience. He reflected on how even small acts, staying true to oneself and responding with dignity, could inspire change in society. His story touched hundreds, becoming a symbol of grace in the face of injustice. The story concluded with James returning to the restaurant, now under new management, to finally have that cup of coffee. This time, he was greeted as a hero, not as a stranger.